Once you set up an object like this, you can of course also go ahead and change a property, for example to Anna. If I now log this object to the console, you see that the name was now updated to Anna. So I can change properties after the object has been created. And this of course is important because not all the time you have all the data you want to have in your object right at the point where you create it. You want to be able to edit it later on maybe, and this is very well possible here. It's time to show another important feature of objects. The greeting function here currently isn't that interesting, we're just saying hello. But we could introduce ourselves here, right? So we could say hello, I am, and then name. And then let's try out if this works. Not this, greet. So I'm executing this function here. Now, what do you think will show up in the console? Hello, I am JSBin output. So JSBin output here is basically the name of our global space here in JSBin. It's the name of our window. If I do this with age years old, for example, and I run this, you'll get an error that age is not defined. So with name, it was just a coincidence that we have this global name variable by default. But age would give us an error because age is not defined. Now you might say, it is defined, we have it here, right? Yes, but if we access age like this, it's referring to a variable in the global scope. Well, this is no variable. It's a property of this object, of this person object. This is a different thing than a variable. It's not registered in the global scope. The object is, but age here is only registered within this object. It's a property of that object. It's no variable. That's important to understand. If I set up an age here, 30 for example, and I run this again, you'll see, hello, I'm 30 years old. So it's not taking into account this age here. If we want to refer to this age, and certainly oftentimes we want when having functions inside an object, we have to tell JavaScript that we're interested in a property of this object and not in a variable. We do this by adding the this keyword, dot, and then age. This keyword is like person outside of this object, just inside of it. So it's referring to the object, and it's this because we're inside the object here. So like we can reference person.age outside of the object, inside it's simply this.age. And if I now click run again, we now see 27. Because now we're referring to this age, to this property of the object. And that's important to understand. And this allows you to use your functions or properties set up in this person or in this object in general inside of the object. Now the this keyword has some interesting things, to say it this way, in JavaScript. It has its problems sometimes, and I'll come back to this in a separate lecture or in separate lectures. But for now, use it like this, and this is perfectly fine, and this is how you should use it. Don't get me wrong at any point here. So with that, this is how we can set up an object, how we can, well, use the different properties here and refer to them internally. So let's have a look at some other object-related topics.